So my friends, welcome to a new crypto update video. Bitcoin at 121,100 US dollars. Very little change compared to yesterday. We are possibly still in our ABC correction. So you can see down here the price range is still between 117,000 and 114,000 US dollars. I've adjusted it slightly downward because, as I said, I really don't like the current price action. The shutdown has been extended once again, or rather there are still no results. The proposal from the Democrats was voted down yesterday, or rather, there weren't enough votes for it. Yes, that's why the rally could of course continue a bit further, but the longer this shutdown drags on, the more limited or the more critical the possible Fed rate decision in 19 days becomes. At the moment, 94% still expect that this rate cut will happen. We'll see how long the shutdown ultimately lasts and whether we'll be left without data, because in the end, even in the FOMC meeting, it was said we have to wait for data, we have to wait for data, and we have to wait for data in order to make a firm decision. That's why we're just waiting to see what happens next. In any case, let's take a look at Bitcoin and the other altcoins now to see what's been happening there. A little spoiler, the altcoins took a bit more of a hit than Bitcoin, but alright, we'll take a calm look at all of that now, and of course also at the traditional markets. But before we get started, I'd really appreciate it if you could give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and if you haven't already, feel free to join the free Telegram talk and signal group. There you'll always find the latest information whenever there's something new, including possible setups. And if I've launched a new trading bot, for example the Tau bot, which is now running very well at this point, you'll hear about it there too. So feel free to sign up with my partner exchange. You could definitely call it an exchange by now, Pionex. They're still offering the following at the moment: between 500 and 1,000 USDT in bonuses, depending on how much you deposit here. So the bonuses are definitely still available. The promotion has been extended and I can now officially let you know. So just use the link below in the video description. And you're in, and then you can also start up the bots. Alright, then I'd say let's jump right in at this point. Bitcoin at 121,300 US dollars. So, over the past few days, we've been talking repeatedly about how this ABC correction should probably already be pretty much priced in. And again, yesterday, we didn't manage, just to draw it in here again, we didn't manage to form a higher high. Once again, on the 4-hour chart, it was just a liquidity wick, and then the whole mess went down. Other than that, not much has really happened. We can see here a significant amount of selling volume, which clearly exceeds the buying volume at this point. Okay, as I said, the ABC correction is still ongoing. For me, it's still the best scenario that could happen with Bitcoin at the moment. And from here, as you can see, the 200 SMA is already moving down into our buy zone here. If this actually happens in the end, it would be a good sign that we could possibly push up into the area of 130,000 US dollars afterwards. What currently supports this scenario? On the one hand, of course, the funding rates, which have dropped significantly again. This means that more and more short positions are entering the market again. That's really surprising. We're at 120,000 and we have significantly more shorts than longs, and the funding rates are even partly negative. This is a situation we definitely didn't have in the last bull run, but alright. Let's also take a look at the heat map, which basically tells us the same story. Even to the upside, up to around 128,000 US dollars, we have a lot of liquidity. Otherwise, below us, we still have the 119,000 to 117,000 range. So it would fit perfectly if we first drop down here, possibly fish for the liquidity from this ABC correction, and then we'd have a smaller correction. The RSI would have cooled off significantly to the downside, and after that we could then fish for the liquidity up here somewhere in this price range. To then possibly either make a turnaround or, honestly, I have no idea what we should do after that. Let's quickly switch to the weekly time frame, because there too, yes, it's already Friday and the weekly close is getting closer and closer. At the moment we simply have a lower weekly close than last week. You know, I'm eyeing that we should at least shoot above $124,600 on the weekly close. Otherwise, the whole thing looks pretty critical if the candle ends up closing like this. Of course, you have to say we still have a green vector here. I can quickly show it to you at this point, which is from last week. Everything's fine as long as we ultimately hold this price range around $117,400 or even $114,700. As long as that's the case, everything is still completely within reason, but the higher we close at this point, the better it is, of course, for the possible price action next week. Just a little note to keep an eye on that as well. Otherwise, there's not much to discuss with Bitcoin at the moment. Let's move over to Ethereum. Ethereum has reached the buy zone, and that's what I meant yesterday in the live stream. With the altcoins, we've really reached a point now where it's make or break decision time. We need to start moving slowly but surely, and that means upwards. Everywhere. You'll see it in a moment with the altcoins we're going to look at everywhere. We are at support zones. Whether it's the golden pocket here with Ethereum, or the 0.5 Fibonacci retracement level where our buy zone was located, or ultimately with Solana, which, well, Solana didn't quite reach the bottom, but at least got close since our possible A, B, and then larger C correction. We are at major support zones everywhere, in some cases like here with Solana, even seeing a bullish divergence. That means the altcoins really have to perform now. Because as soon as we lose our support zone, and this applies everywhere, there will be an XRP video later, but ultimately it's the same with Hype, where we are standing right in the middle of a support zone, but where a larger ABC correction is still possible at this point. That means the altcoins need to move now, and if we take a quick look at Bitcoin dominance, we have currently reached our larger resistance cluster here. So the chance is definitely there, or Bitcoin pumps extremely and the altcoins just follow, but not as strongly. So those are the two alternatives we have. But the altcoins now have to move at this point in order to get, let's say, this next push upwards. And this opportunity actually exists almost everywhere. Also with Ondo, for example. You know, Ondo is one of my favorite projects. Again, in the support zone with a larger double bottom at this point. So it's either now or never. I don't know what the altcoins are still waiting for. In my opinion, the news isn't going to get any better either, and once again, for all VeChain holders, the support has held. We might now be in a trend reversal here in our huge symmetrical triangle. So you see, no matter which altcoins I show you, higher lows, check. Golden pocket 0.5 on the retracement level overnight, check. Bullish divergence, check. Support, check. That's all there is right now. It's either now or not at all, and then yeah, the next few weeks probably won't look much better either at this point. So let's hope that the altcoins finally start to move a bit here. Now, in the end, this opportunity needs to be seized. Let's move over to the traditional markets. Gold took quite a hit yesterday. Well, quite a hit in quotation marks. A somewhat bigger, so-called sell-off here of about 3%. Not really fatal. As I said, I'm not short here. I'm still staying long and trying to take advantage of the pullbacks. You can see that the 200 SMA has already moved above our green buy zone here. Let's see if we might get another opportunity there, or if we'll have to enter a bit higher. But it has to be said, gold has staged an enormous rally of 23% within 1.5 months, or just under 2 months. That's usually not normal and should be followed by a larger correction, or rather should be pulled back before we then, after this retracement, we would then see the next rally to the upside. Silver, same story, hit $51 after the brief drop downwards. Everything is still manageable, but here too we have massive divergences. However, the volume is still very, very strong, which means I still won't be shorting here, and I'm hoping that sooner or later we'll get a small pullback, or perhaps a larger one at this point. Ideally, I would like to see that happen somewhere in this area between $43 and $41. As I said, that's a wishful scenario. Let's see if it actually happens at some point. Alright, otherwise, let's move on to the traditional markets. DAX, yeah, I think it's about time to start considering a short position here. I didn't keep an eye on it yesterday, but it actually doesn't look too bad. We've swapped the liquidity above with the 4-hour candles, which is a good sign. So here too, we could actually open a short position now, but with a considerable stop loss at this point. If we take a look from the current level, 24,600 points, it would be good to set it somewhere around the 25,300 or 25,400 mark. That would be about 3%, which I find reasonable, but it's a massive divergence. Normally, the rally should pull back a bit now. It looks very, very good at this point. Then, interestingly, the Dow Jones has left its support. If we take a look at how long this support has actually held, is this the first time we've fallen below this support? Yes, I know, actually everything still looks good and we still have the shutdown and everything seems just fine. But the signs are increasing. The Nasdaq as well, although it hit a new all-time high just barely, but we can't quite get above it anymore and we're really reaching the limit here as far as that's concerned. S&P 500, yes, has now effectively reached its resistance. Well, that's what I wanted. So S&P 500. Although we've already moved above the sell zone, in my opinion, the movement here is also getting weaker and weaker, including in terms of volume. We're not really seeing any positive signs, maybe a brief pullback, maybe down to the 200-day SMA, just like we've done here from time to time. Then to continue the rally upwards, we'll have to see if that's how it actually plays out here. Otherwise, let's just briefly assume that we're going to do a little Elliott wave analysis here. I'll do that for you live here on the stream just real quick. So if we just assume that down here was possibly a wave one, meaning this bottom that we had down at 4,800 points. We go up, then down wave two, a correction. then we would actually already be overdue, but theoretically there would still be room in the S&P 500 if this whole wave gets a bit exaggerated so that we could move up somewhere into the range of 7,100 to even 7,300 points. So those would be the next targets for the S&P 500 if this whole rally continues. There's not much anymore if we take a quick look at the whole thing from where we are now. 5%, we could easily reach that in 2 weeks if the shutdown continues and more positive news comes out, but just keep an eye on that. At the moment, as I said, I'm not short yet, but I will slowly but surely position myself somewhere in between here, because then, as mentioned, this wave 3 could be exhausted for now, even though it's already getting a bit weaker, but that would be the next alternative. Otherwise, let's move on to the individual stocks. D-Wave at this point. Yes, it's continuing to pump, and where do we have Circle? Circle is also looking quite good. The path towards 190 to 214 is definitely paved. Otherwise, that's definitely it from my side. We'll hear from each other later in an XRP update video. You know, it's Friday and all, and XRP day. Otherwise, I'd like to wish you a great start to the weekend already. Tune in later for the XRP video, and don't forget to leave a like. Subscribe, leave a subscription, join the Telegram group, check out the Pinex promotion. It's been extended just for you. Take advantage of it. You can get free bonuses that you can simply claim. Otherwise, that's it from me. I wish you a great day. See you then. Ciao, ciao. And as always, stay crypto.